A lot of balls in the air right now with us. Just got back on the practice field today. We'll go to obviously today and tomorrow, and then take a day off for graduation, and then go Saturday and Sunday, and then give the kids a few days off over Christmas, and coaches off over Christmas, and meet at the bowl site and get ready for a great challenge in Kentucky. Today's signing day. Awfully excited about what we've been able to add to our class. There's a lot of dynamics in this. There's a lot of people that have helped us on this campus continue to sell Virginia Tech. Um, we are still dealing with a couple people, um, throughout today. Um, I guess a couple things I would say. Obviously, we don't have a lot of room. We've got a pretty darn good football team coming back. Um, I'm excited about that. We did feel like there's at running back we needed to get immediate help to go along with the rest of our squad. Um, I think we did that, and also planned for the long term. Next year's class is going to be really, really big, really large. So we tried to plan a little bit ahead. I think what I'm most proud about is our camp system really paid off this year. A couple of the guys that maybe are lesser known were products of our camps that we evaluated in camp and were really excited about, and then tracks throughout their senior year, and it kind of all came to fruition today. So all those miles traveled and logistics in terms of getting camps set up, I think really paid off for us today. So I don't know. I'm sure you guys will ask about the next signing period. There's not a lot. There's not a lot left for us to do in terms of that. Obviously, it's a fluid situation, and we'll evaluate that as we move forward. But just excited about what we were able to add today on the defensive line, and preparing kind of for our future there. So, questions?
You mentioned the defensive line. The defensive ends are all 6'3" or taller, kind of big guys. I think you only had one signee that was taller than that in your tenure. Obviously, is a little bit of a shift in focus there with the size of those guys.
Sure. I do think relative speed and relative length is important, and we have made a concerted effort to get longer. We have really, I guess, historically been long in the defensive secondary, and maybe not as long up front. And I think I'm right in that evaluation. I know since I've been here, that's what we've looked like. So just make a concerted effort to go get a little bit longer up front as we move forward.
What does that do? What is the advantage? For a defensive end that is longer.
Well, I just when you are trying to keep people off of you, offensive players want those guys in there tight, when they're blocking them, and defensive players want them far away. And I know that's oversimplifying it, but that's part of it. And that doesn't mean that if you're just tall you can play, obviously, but trying to continue to take up some more space on the field, continue to develop some players. They're all developmental players. They're guys that will have to get in the system and lift and feed and bring along. But I think it can restrict some space, and ultimately in the long run lead to an opportunity for some more productive play.
You don't normally see a lot of Texas recruits at Virginia Tech. Have one in the boat right now. I know you can't talk about the guys next year, but what's kind of been behind this push into Texas lately with a couple guys you've looked at?
Well, we have several people on our staff with strong ties to the state. It's just a different world than it was just 5 years ago, quite honestly. It's just so much easier for people not just to communicate, but for people to look and see and touch and feel programs and colleges without having been there, and I just think we're beginning to scratch the surface of what we can do. We have a beautiful product here to sell, and I think it is going to appeal to some people maybe in a little bit farther away or areas that haven't been historically productive for Virginia Tech. And part of that's a function of technology. And part of that's a function of it's a little bit easier to sell your school and your program from a distance than it used to be.
I think a couple years ago, Gerard signed. He said, "I'm not going to send recruiters out to Texas like that." Does it make you change your stance and maybe consider doing a little bit more?
Yes. I mean, it's become a situation. First of all, there's great football and great football programs down there. I mean, there's just, it's not the end all be all of recruiting. I understand that, but it's pretty hard to argue the statistics when you talk about the quality of players and programs that are down there. I think people would really be taken back if they really got a close look at the quality of the programs that are in that state. I think it would be shocking to some people if they really got to get on the inside and see what it looks like. So yes is the answer to that question. I think we are constantly evaluating what we're doing and constantly talking about that and having those conversations about what we can do better. Our camp circuit is one thing, where we're recruiting, where we have connections, where we need to be evaluating players at, and trying to continually evolve. And it certainly has had me rethink a little bit about what we're going to do.
Does the early signing day push up the coach hiring process? Obviously, with the staff changes and everything, you have to get that done quicker now with an early signing day.
Are you talking about our staff, or are you talking about head coaches that are getting fired all over the place? Well, I think it's pushed up the firing process. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I'd be interested to read. I'm sure it wouldn't take much for somebody to look up the dates that coaches have been let go since the early signing period and before. I feel like it's moved up. I mean, we got guys getting, halfway into the year getting let go. So I think it's moved that up. I don't know. Like, I didn't feel pressure for the signing period. I didn't. I wanted to make sure we did it right. And, we still have some hiring to do. I don't expect there to be anything, here in the near future on it. We are pretty far down the road on the other things, but we're really far down the road, but we're not able to take the next step for a little while. So I don't think it hasn't affected me much in terms of what we tried to do, because I think it's more important to get it right than to rush into something because of a imposed deadline.
Coach, you mentioned you wanted more help immediately in running back room, and now you guys have Kobe Harbor. What's that veteran presence going to be like today? Already strong running back.
Well, just first of all, I'd say Khalil is a fine young man with a great family. Obviously a talented football player, but we vet those young men pretty extensively when we bring an older player into our program. Obviously we try and do it with our young players too, but it's really important to me that we try to influence the young players with really good older players if we're going to bring somebody new in here. And I feel like Khalil's going to fit right in. He's got some games under his belt. He's got some experience. He's a great worker, just a highly intelligent young man from a great family that I think is going to blend right in with our crew seamlessly.
Do you anticipate some attrition? I mean, you have, with these signings, like I think 11 running backs.
Would you anticipate some attrition if you were a head coach in Division I football these days?
Not that specific, but just with that number, I mean, that's a big number. So, I mean, like.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll put the ball down and go compete, But in today's day and age, I mean, there's no telling.
And with Virginia, only had the one recruit from in-state. Just a symptom of being a small class, or how did that kind of shake out with some of the in-state?
Well, I mean, quite honestly, there's some that we didn't get, and there's some that we didn't like. I mean, that's the truth, And I was pretty slow with some things because of the small numbers. Like I was pretty hypersensitive to trying to make sure we did things the right way because of our number situation. So, I'd say it was all those factors. I don't think it's going to be indicative of anything to come. But, those are kind of the facts of it, I guess.
Can you tell us a little bit about Wilfred Penne? His bio is very slight, and there's not much when you search for him. So, what
What's
can
his
you
bio
say?
say?
He's from France.
He
And he
is.
went to a prep school in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And played both ways, I guess.
Right, he did. Played defensive end and
Yeah.
tight end. I think he's a guy that could do both of those, not at the same time, but could play on either side of the ball in his career. Obviously, a unique situation. We have a punter from Australia and now a tight end from France. Not a hotbed for college football recruiting, but as a guy that we have known about for some time, he came to the United States to have a chance to play college football. He ended up at a prep school in Connecticut, and I guess it's a prep school and a undergrad school, but. We have just tracked and got a chance to see live, and it was really we're really excited about what he could do. He's an aggressive, athletic guy with great size and strength. He enjoys the weight room. He taught himself English in a year on his own with no class. He just jumped right into taking classes and did not speak English when he started. And it's just, there's something about people like that, in my opinion, that have the courage to pack up and go away from your family, to learn a language, to adapt. I think that's pretty special.
So how does he come up on your radar? Just a coach should make connections with that
Yeah.
school, or
Mm-hmm. Yep. They've got other players at the school too.
You mentioned Herbert at running back, but you had a couple other guys, Lee, Brownson, Hampton. What do you look for when you're looking for running backs on the recruiting trail? Those guys appear to be a little bit bigger maybe than typically what you've had the last
We
couple
certainly made a concerted effort to get bigger. Marco was a big, strong young man. I think Jalen is just touching what he can be size-wise. He's got a really good frame, but he's got a chance in a year or two to be a bigger person than 195. And then Jordan is a little more developed already. He's a 210, 212-pound guy that's pretty far along from a physical standpoint. So we certainly did make a concerted effort to get bigger. We do have some smaller guys that I really, really like. I think we have a chance to have something really special back there with a couple different styles. I don't want them all to look exactly the same. I'd like for them to, and we haven't done that since we've been here, quite honestly. We just have not. We made a focused, concerted effort to go try and get this thing balanced out in that room and try to be more productive.
You said Darrell Bailey is more of an end or a tackle.
We'll see. There's no telling how big a young man he's going to end up being. He'll start out as an end, but I just think he's another one of those guys that when he's going to come at semester, and when he comes and the next time he goes home, people are going to say, oh my gosh, he's just scratching the surface of what he can become. He's long and athletic, and when he gets in the weight program and starts lifting in a year or two, I just don't know how. It's hard. I know he's going to be a big, strong kid, so that may be what happens. I just don't know.
One more question on the Texas guys.
Mm-hmm.
It might be easier to make contact with them. Is the challenge still getting them here on campus to show them around?
Well, that's how you know if they're interested. That's kind of the litmus test. Is because there's more guys down there than you can recruit, but if they come up, they're serious, and that's kind of how we handle it. There's we go through it and evaluate it, and then if they come, if they come up, it kind of stamps it that they're serious about us.
have you solidified what you're going to be doing for the bowl game for the DBs coach? And because you said you're not going to make probably a hire in the short term, who's going to be coaching that position in the bowl game?
Pearson.
Pearson is.
Yep.
And is Tapp going to be doing the defensive line or
No, I don't. We're going to talk about that. All of the details haven't been worked out. I don't know that the new hires will be involved in that. They got a lot of stuff on their plates too, in terms of getting moved and getting prepared for the next recruiting session, getting up to speed with what we've got going on. I'm not like, I'll tell you we're going to meet again, and quite honestly, I'm gonna let Bud build it how Bud wants to build it. You know, like however he wants it to go. I'm gonna let him do that, and then we'll figure it out. And we haven't made final decisions on any of that just yet.
And you said a lot of balls in the air with Kentucky. Have you had a chance to dive into them yet? And the film,
Absolutely.
What have you seen from them?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I had player meetings Monday and Tuesday from 8 to 12 both days. I really enjoyed that. Got some great feedback on what we've got going on. But, yeah, absolutely have. I mean, number one is a special player. I mean, for them to move him to quarterback and go run the ball like they have been able to run the football is really remarkable. When you look at them on defense, it's different than what I thought I was going to see. I mean, they are huge on the defensive line. People have a hard time running the football. You know, they play a 50 defense and get to some 4-down stuff that can make things really hard to move the line of scrimmage. There's just some really good offensive lines have not been able to move the line of scrimmage because they're just so darn big. It will be a tremendous challenge. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Coach Stoops has got a bunch of guys coming back next year as well, maybe only like 8 or 9 seniors. So it's kind of, I'm sure they're building towards finishing off this year and building towards next year, and we're doing the exact same thing. It should be a heck of a battle. I mean, I'm looking forward to the competition.
From a coaching perspective, how impressive is that? You guys made some tweaks with Hendon to the offense, but they just sort of threw everything out and changed things around.
Yeah.
How hard is that to do as a coach? I mean, do you respect what they've been success doing it too to kind of qualify for?
I do have a tremendous amount of respect for what they have done as as coaches. Maybe more respect for what number one has done as a player. I mean, he's pretty special now. I expected to turn on the film and see a little bitty guy, and he's not. He's a big, strong kid that can really run and is shifty, and then for them to just throw him back there at quarterback and let him go run the show is pretty impressive. So, yeah, obviously the coaches deserve a tremendous amount of credit in terms of putting them in the position to succeed. But, I mean, what that kid's done is that's pretty cool.
You mentioned the importance of camps in this whole process, and you've done a couple satellite camps in Jacksonville over the years, and I think Tyree Saunders was somebody who ran there. Is it helpful to see a guy like that run in person than just, you know, taking their 40 time for what they say it is?
100%. And for us, like, we don't get too caught up in the number. You know, you can have a guy that runs a slow 40 that doesn't know how to start and doesn't know how to get out of the ball, you know, like, but we want to see them run and watch them work and interact with them. To me, that's part of it, is just having a chance to work on the field with them. And Tyree was one of those guys. Great personality, highly intelligent. You know, obviously a big skill set. They couldn't get him the ball this year. You know, they just couldn't. Throwing the football, they weren't able to. You know, they had some quarterback issues and that sort of stuff. They couldn't get him the ball, but he was fantastic in camp. The one that came out of nowhere was Dorian Strong at camp. Was never heard of him, didn't know anything about him. Comes out to camp, runs really, really fast, is really long, competes the entire day. We go bring him onto campus a week later, whenever it was, meet him, talk to him, offer him a scholarship. He commits on the spot. Has a great senior year. They win the state championship. He's playing both ways. He had been a track guy his whole career, really gotten into football, had been behind some good players as a young player, and then boom, has a great senior year. I mean, to me, that's another example. Lakeem was at camp. You know, we saw several of these guys work out live. That it really makes you feel pretty excited about them.
All right, one more in the back. How you doing?
I'm good.
Awesome. I mean, speak a little bit about that excitement. I mean, how exciting is it to see all these guys say, "Hey, we want you. We want to be with you. We see something in this program that we find special." I mean, what's it
Sure.
like?
Well, the best part of recruiting are the families. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it that, um, there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of other stuff that goes into recruiting, but the best part of it is getting to know the families. Like, there's some, it rekindles my faith in America, quite honestly, without being too over the top. It just, when you go into some of these homes and you see what these kids are being taught by their families, sometimes it's single mothers, sometimes it's grandmothers, sometimes it's mom and dad, whatever it is, and you see what they're being taught and how they're excelling in the classroom and in sports and how tight-knit the families are. It makes you feel good about what we're doing. And because sometimes when you turn on television, you begin the feeling that there are no families like that anymore, and that's not true. There's some great ones out there, and to me, that's the fun part of this whole thing.